If you rent rather than own your own home, you may be tempted to skip over this episode. I suggest you don't, because the underlying question of ownership leading to control goes far beyond a house or a land. When people think of the American dream or what the Declaration of Independence means when it talks about the pursuit of happiness, what seems to come to mind most often is owning property. But do you actually own your property in America anymore? From taxes to regulations, it seems governments at all levels want to tell you what you can do with your own land. I want to take a recent experience I had as an opportunity to take a closer look at this question. Do you actually own your own land? So we'll discuss that next on the Constitution Study.
Love the neighbors and have a few good friends. Every day we're everyday Americans. Oh, every day we're everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution, teach your rising generation to be free. I tell people it's important to be involved locally. And this is an example. This is something I actually went through just a couple months ago, but I wanted to bring to your attention just to explore the question of owning land. Now, you'll find the article with the quotes and all the links at the website constitutionstudy.com, but I'll talk more about the website and some other things at the end of the episode. So for now, let's get into this question of, do you own your own land? This investigation started while I was researching a county commission meeting. I noticed in the agenda a proposed resolution regarding the use of recreational vehicles and campers and other structures as permanent dwellings. The proposed resolution would create a planning ordinance prohibiting these readily removable structures as permanent dwellings. This was justified by the fact that the Tennessee Code annotated prohibited using such structures as housing. From the TCA, no ready removable shall be modified for use as a residential, recreational, or emergency housing in this state. Now, the logic presented for this county resolution was twofold. First, these structures do not meet the current building codes and therefore are not safe for permanent housing. Second, the only method of enforcement of this state law was cruel and dangerous, while the county planning department should be able to find a better housing solution. Now, as I frequently warn you, local governments can just as easily infringe on your rights as the federal government. Yet, most Americans pay very little attention to what goes on at this level of government. What no one in my county government seemed to realize was both their resolution and the state law were in violation of the Constitution of the United States. The two clauses in the Constitution, which seem to be overlooked most often, are the due process clauses of the 5th and 14th Amendments. From the 14th Amendment, we read, "Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law." So what is this due process of law the Constitution is talking about? Well, from the Free Legal Dictionary, we read, due process is an established course for judicial proceedings or other governmental activities designed to safeguard the legal rights of the individual. Now, if we read the 14th Amendment with that definition in mind, it means you cannot be deprived of your life, liberty, or property without a judicial or governmental process designed to protect your individual legal rights. And that is where the Tennessee Code annotated and my county's resolution violate the Constitution. Let's start with property. Now, I'm sure we all have an idea in our minds of what is meant by the word property. James Madison wrote an essay on the topic where he wrote, "This term in its particular application means that dominion which one man claims and exercises over the external things of the world in exclusion of every other individual. In its larger and juster meaning, it embraces everything to which a man may attach a value and have a right, and which leaves to everyone else the like advantage. In the former sense, a man's land or merchandise or money is called his property." Now, the first thing to notice is that property isn't just land, as it's often used today. Anything to which you attach a value and have a right to is your property. What makes property yours is your legal ability to exercise exclusive control over it. My home is my property because I have a legal right to control it, and no one else does, well, except my wife. So when government claims control of my property, they are depriving me of it since I no longer have exclusive control over it. For this to be legal, It must be done with due process of law, meaning the process must protect my legal rights. For example, if the government can prove that I have failed to pay the required taxes on my home, they have a legal right to sell it to pay for my debt. I'll talk more about taxes later. So when the state of Tennessee or my county claims that I cannot use my property the way I want, like putting an RV or other ready removable structure on it for housing, they are depriving me of my property without due process of law. This is because the state has not shown how my using a readily removable structure for housing harms anyone other than myself. That makes this law a violation of the Constitution of the United States, which means it is void. Now, liberty is a pretty broad subject. In fact, I teach an entire class about rights and liberty. When the Constitution talks about liberty, I believe it means civil liberty, which Webster's 1828 dictionary defines as civil liberty is the liberty of men in a state of society or natural liberty so far only abridged and restrained as is necessary and expedient for the safety and interests of the society, state, or nation. In other words, liberty is your right to live your life as you see fit without unnecessary external influence. So tell me, how does someone using an RV or other readily removable structure for housing pose a safety hazard to the society, state, or nation? The answer is, it doesn't. People claim they pose a safety hazard to the occupant, but that is not a hazard to anyone else. So when the state of Tennessee claims I cannot use a readily removable structure for housing, they are depriving me of that liberty without due process of law, making the law void. Now, while not the focus of this article, there are plenty of people who claim that if you have to pay property taxes, you don't really own your land. Now, at the surface, there appears to be some logic to this position, but only at the surface. You see, this position assumes that taxes are like rent, something you pay for the privilege of occupying someone else's property. However, taxes are not rent. According to Webster's 1828 dictionary, a tax is a rate or sum of money assessed on the person or property of a citizen by government for the use of the nation or state. Therefore, a tax is a fee assessed to fund the operation of government. Now, before someone claims that taxes are theft because they are taken without our consent, may I point to an example from the Tennessee Constitution. In accordance with the following provisions, all property, real, personal, or mixed, shall be subject to taxation. See, you personally may not have consented to property tax, but the people collectively did when they adopted their Constitution. This also applies to the direct federal income tax, which was consented to when the states ratified the 16th Amendment. Now, my concern with the county resolution was not the state law, but the potential exposure it would give to both the county and its employees. As things stand now, should someone be fined for using a readily removable structure for housing, they would have a cause to sue the state under Title 42, Section 1983 of the United States Code, which reads, every person who, under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or territory or district of Columbia, subjects or causes to be subjected any citizen of the United States or other person within the jurisdiction thereof to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and laws shall be liable to the party injured in an action at law, suit in equity, or other proper proceeding for redress. If the county were to pass this resolution, they would be liable since the deprivation of rights would be under the color of their ordinance. The consequences for state employees could be worse, considering Title 18, Section 242 of the United States Code, which reads, whoever, under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom, willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. And if the person even threatens to use a dangerous weapon, the penalties get even worse. While many in the county government threw plenty of allegations about why I opposed the resolution, as I pointed out both to you and the county commission, I thought the liability they would expose themselves to, not to mention what their constituents would think, was not worth any benefit the people of the county would gain. It seemed many in county government pointed to the state law as justification for their ordinance, but they had forgotten the supremacy clause, which reads, this Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. Anything in the laws or constitution of any state that contradicts the Constitution of the United States is invalid and void, at least according to the Supreme Court, for the case of Marbury versus Madison. Thus, the particular phraseology of the Constitution of the United States confirms and strengthens the principle, supposed to be essential to all written constitutions, that a law repugnant to the Constitution is void, and that courts as well as other departments are bound by that instrument. That also means that every judge in every state is bound by that document to invalidate Tennessee's law in any case brought before them. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against planning and zoning, but they have to follow the Constitution and due process. In listening to the arguments for this resolution, it sounded like people wanted the planning department to act more like a countywide homeowners association. While some had legitimate concerns about the disposal of wastewater, it seems most concerns were about the look of these structures or the stereotypes of the people who lived in them. I still don't understand why RVs or readily removable structures can't be required to meet the same general zoning requirements that are designed to protect the rights of their neighbors, such as setbacks, sanitary hookups, and approved electrical systems. That would take care of the legitimate concerns about these residences without infringing on their owners' rights. The underlying concern I have is this ever-growing belief that governments have the right to tell people how to live their lives. While the desire to use government to get one's own way is nothing new in this country, it seems more and more people are willing to use the power of government not only to protect their own legal rights, but to also infringe on the legal rights of others. One of the ways I'm seeing this done at the local and state level are things like planning departments, zoning laws, and building codes. Well, there are legitimate purposes for all of these. More often than not, they're being used to enforce the belief that government actors know better than the average citizen how they should live their lives. My question is, do they have the legal authority to enforce that idea? I hope my comments both at the public hearings and on local media helped lead to its defeat. However, we must remain diligent as resolutions like this and others can easily be brought back. That is why I tell people it's probably more important to focus on state and local governments than on the feds. They are just as able to infringe on your rights, but since most Americans pay little attention to their local governments, this is where those infringements on your rights can be slipped into the law. If you have a question about a law in your state or local government, please ask it at the website. As always, stay vigilant and learn to defend and assert your rights legally. I wonder, are there laws in your state or local governments that tell you what you can use for housing on your property, that tell you what you can do with your own property, not because it would harm a neighbor, but because they think it's better for you? They think it's safer for you. They have no consideration of what your life actually is at that moment. They just think they know better. Do they have these laws not so that you can, you're actually harming your neighbor, but, you could drop property values? Well, you don't have a right to your property value. You certainly don't have the right to tell me what I can do with my land because you think it may negatively impact your property values. That's the deal we make when we live in a society, when we live with others, with neighbors. It's one of the reasons why I live out in the middle of nowhere. I live here on 70 acres of land so that I can do what I want without bothering my neighbors, and they can do what they want without really bothering me. It's a choice I made, it's a choice I was able to make after years and years of, decisions that put me in a position where I could buy this property and live here. I bet if you went looking through your local zoning ordinances, you'd find some pretty interesting stuff. But I wanted to point out that this was happening at my county level. I live in an unincorporated town, so there's no town government, no city government. The most local government I have is my county government. I got involved, and I saw something, I said something, and hopefully I helped defeat something. What are you doing? It's important to be engaged. It's important to look, because this is the stuff that can really bite you in the backside, and I've seen it done to many people. In fact, I've even had people reach out to me asking for help of how do I fight against something after the resolution has already passed. Better to nip it in the bud beforehand. Now, as I said, if you want to find out more, just go to the website constitutionstudy.com. If you have a question, go to constitutionstudy.com/questions, and I'd be happy to answer whatever questions I can. But I also hope you'll consider supporting the work that we're doing here. It takes a lot to put on these these episodes every week, along with my radio program, and all the help I can get would be appreciated. It's pretty much a one-man show. One way you can do that is by doing business with our partners. For example, I found this really great course called The Miracle of America. If you go to the website, constitutionstudy.com/1776 study guide, that's the numerals 1776 study guide, you can read all about it. It's a custom landing page just for my listeners. I certainly thought it was worth my time, but the nice thing is if you go to that website, you can sign up for a lesson absolutely free, a lesson on God's natural law, which is the foundation of our unalienable rights. Again, go to constitutionstudy.com/1776 study guide to read up about the course, to sign up for your free lesson on God's natural law. And if you like the course and want to purchase it, well, you can do it there for just $17.76. Another thing you can do is use your phone to defend your rights. Stop spending your money with companies that are supporting organizations trying to deprive you of your rights. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They provide the same 4G and 5G coverage on the same networks and towers that the major carriers do, but they take their money and they invest in organizations that are protecting your rights, your freedom of speech, freedom of the press, sanctity of life. They also support our veterans and first responders. Go to patriotmobile.com/constitution, find a plan that works for you, and then use the code Constitution at checkout to get free activation. Yes, you can use your cell phone to defend not just your rights, but those of your friends and family and neighbors. Again, go to patriotmobile.com/constitution, find a plan that works for you, and don't forget to use the code Constitution at checkout to get free activation. I hope also you'll take the links for this episode and others and share them. Word of mouth is my best advertisement. Let other people know that the Constitution Study is out here, that we have content they may find useful, and that we even answer questions. Most of all, maybe you'll bring someone along and join us here next time for the Constitution Study.
Love your neighbors and have a few good friends.